Good morning, Chicago. You're listening to Inspirational Perspective. I'm your host, Linal Harris, your very own life coach, right here on WVON 1690 AM, the talk of Chicago. Inspirational Perspective on your radio is all about murdering mediocrity and living the best life possible. So as I ask you every Sunday morning, are you living the best life possible? And this is the place to be, to explore that possibility. Well, good Sunday morning, everyone. The year is moving right along, January 13th. And time just keeps on moving. And by the way, something I'm going to talk about today, but according to research, most people are quitting on their goals 14 days into the new year, right? So this is the Monday. This is the Monday where people start giving up, according to research. Now, some may have given up already. Some of us may be still hanging on. And if you're still hanging on, that's phenomenal. And if you can hang on one more week, you can break through a level of resistance that typically most people don't break through when it comes to their goals, when it comes to their dreams, when it comes to what matters to them. So hopefully we're clear on what we want to achieve this year. We've set those goals. It's funny, I was in the barbershop, and my conversation is always the same, no matter where I go. And so last Saturday, the conversation was, of course, Happy New Year. And I said, gentlemen, what are your goals? And you would think I came in and said a bad word. A lot of eyes got big. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you know what, man? You're right, I need to set some goals. And my barber, he said, oh, I should have known you were going to ask me that. He said, I'll be ready next week. I said, okay. But a lot of guys in the barbershop, they just, no intention, no clear, intention for what they want to create in 2019 for themselves, for their families, in their lives. And I believe part of the reason for that is the level of distraction. We're so distracted that we're not creating in our own lives. But for those of us who are interested in creating in our own lives, I think you're going to love what the conversation is about today, because ultimately, I want to talk about the secret science of goal setting. The secret science of goal setting. Last week, we talked about creating 2019. We talked about how to clearly define success, but we also talked about the difference between a resolution and a goal. And so we have that already as a foundation for today's conversation. But let me tell you, when it comes to goals, there is a secret science. And I'm not saying that to do good radio. I am saying it to keep you listening, of course. I'll be honest about that. But there is a secret science. And this secret extends itself well past what we write on the page. I was talking to someone else, and they said, well, I don't know how well I'm doing with my goals, but at the very least, Linal, I've written them down. I can't say that I've really stepped into them, right? As a matter of fact, it was the person I was talking to was on the air on another radio station. I was being interviewed about the New Year, New You at Sonia Blakey, 1390. But she was like, I've written them down. And I'm like, man, that's a start. That's a start because it's proven that people who write their goals down are more likely to achieve those goals, right? But the secret to the science is bigger than just writing down your goals. it has a lot to do with how you think. It has a lot to do with the what's going on in your mind and how you fortify your mind. And so what I want to talk about today is that secret science. And I want to start, because part of what I'm going to be doing is, for those of you who have read the book, I'm going to be walking through, in a lot of ways, walking through a lot of what you've already read. So if you have questions about your goals, if you want more clarity, if there's a place where you've run into a snag with your goals, today's your opportunity. Give me a phone call, 773-591-1690. Over the next week or two, while I'm covering this topic, many of you will get the same treatment that my Slay Your Goals members get when we're on our call. We have another call today, our actual call. Last week we had a bonus call, but today is the actual scheduled call for coaching and training around goals. And if you're not a member and you're interested in becoming a member, by all means, go to slayyourgoals.com. And if you've already downloaded the book, go through the same process. But when you get to the membership page, the membership offering, here's what I want you to do, because I still have a special. It's still the beginning of 2019. And if you put in the discount code START 2019, no spaces, all caps, START 2019, you can get the first 30 days of your membership for $1. $1. And I'm doing this because I'm so passionate about how we set goals, what we do to set goals, and all of us understanding the science of goal setting so we can create the lives that we want. And again, I think I shared some of the tidbits that I received when I went to the conference towards the end of the year, the Millionaire Mindset Intensive Conference. And one of the things that they said that really stuck with me is that the difference between a billionaire, the difference between a multimillionaire and someone who is not that they're so much smarter than you, right? The difference is simply information. A billionaire has information that we don't have. And if we're able to get that information, then it's very likely that we can become billionaires too. So how do you get that information? Well, that's the thing. You have to be very intentional about what you're learning and why you're learning it, because there's a lot of stuff you can learn, but I don't know that it's going to necessarily edify you. At the barbershop over the last 2 weeks, they've been talking about this surviving R. Kelly. That's the conversation, right? And someone said, Linal, have you seen this documentary? And I said, you mean this 6-hour documentary, this 2-hour over 3 days documentary? No, I haven't. And as a matter of fact, I don't need to see it, because I can sit here in the barbershop. You'll tell me everything I need to know, right? That's not how I want to use my time. If I want to be entertained, I'm specific about how I want to be entertained, right? Definitely not R. Kelly. And otherwise, I want to learn. I want to be pushing myself so I can be learning about what it's going to take me to go to the next level. By the way, one of the secrets of goal setting. And matter of fact, let's start with that. Let's start with that in terms of one of the secrets that most of us don't know. And then after this, I want to talk a little bit about intentional accountability and why it's so important in goal setting. And when I say intentional accountability, how you can hold yourself accountable. We'll talk about coaching, but also how you can hold yourself accountable. But one of the most important things about goal setting, and I talked about this on Friday morning when I was being interviewed, is it is extremely important that when you set a goal, that you also provide yourself the mental inputs to help you fuel that goal. Now, let me give you an example of what I mean. So about 2 years ago, my wife and I decided that we were going to stop eating meat. Well, actually, it was more me. And she just was like, you know what? Because she's never been a really big meat eater anyway. And so she was like, well, if you do it, I'm going to do it. Right? But me, I was the self-proclaimed meat eater. I mean, previous to this, and I want you all to hear this really well, because I think sometimes, you know, we think some people have, oh, they just have more self-discipline, or we put all these excuses out, we compare ourselves, and we don't realize that there's, you know, typically there's a science to discipline. And so before, I would call myself, I was a self-proclaimed meat eater. I would tell people that I'm a carnivore. You know, I in a past life, you know, I'd be joking around, but I said in a past life, I was a lion. How can you take meat from a lion? Right? One of the other things I used to say is I'm a Leo. And so, you know, I gotta have my meat. And so when I talked to vegetarian, I couldn't even understand. Like, I couldn't even rationalize in my mind how somebody could be a vegetarian, how somebody could be a vegan. Like, I couldn't grasp it. And so when I began to set this goal around no longer eating meat, there was a why. So let's talk about the why, because that's another very important component to the secret of goal setting. All right. The why for no longer eating meat is because, well, I'll tell you the whole story. So basically, what happened to me is, you know, I play basketball about 3 times a week, and I'm aging. I mean, I'm getting older. We all are, right? Mm-hmm. And I see this age challenge on Facebook, and people are saying, you look the same. I'm like, all right, you know, speak the truth. But because not everybody looks the same. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. But and part of it is because we're not setting the right goals. We're not eating right. But I digress. So I'm playing basketball, and my knee, in particular, my left knee hurts bad, but both knees were hurting. And a lot of us who play sports and things like that, as we age, we begin to experience this. And so my knee's hurting, and it's getting worse and worse. And eventually I started looking up remedies for knee pain. And everybody's been here. You start to do some research. You know, you may get on Google, you may get on Pinterest or whatever it may be. And as you're doing that, you start reading all these different things, and you find the things that you want, like the things you want to read, you read that, and the things you don't want to read, you don't read, right? So they had these different remedies, like, oh, just wear a different brace. So I'm like, all right, cool. Because the thing I didn't want to read was, are you eating too much meat? You know, they'll have a little line in the subject, and it will say, eliminate knee pain by eliminating meat. So I wouldn't click on that. Yeah. Right? I wouldn't click on that, because that's not what I want to do. And we've all been there. And so, you know, I did everything else to no avail. Still the knee pain. You know, I'm icing the knees. I'm doing all the things. And so finally, one day, I forget my ice packs. Now, anybody who, you know, plays sports, they know how important those ice packs are to you when you get done playing. Partly because not only does it decrease the swelling, but it numbs the pain. All right? So I decide to, I leave these ice packs at home, and so I'm like, let me rush home and go ahead and put them on. But as I'm driving home, the throbbing in my knees was so bad, like I was almost in tears. And the reason I'm telling this story is because I want you to understand the why. Like, my why behind taking on this goal was to increase my ability to move and eliminate the pain in my knees. All right? So that was my what for doing something radical, like taking on a goal as radical as not eating meat anymore. When I say meat, I mean pork, chicken, beef, poultry, so any turkey, all those type of things, right? My wife and I will still eat certain fishes. certain fish. But that's it. And certain fish, not every fish. Okay. So we stay away from scavengers, etc. But my point in saying this is I was clear on my what for. So now I set the goal. And what I said is, all right, by June, I set the date. Actually, my son was being born that year. Okay. And so I said, when he comes into the world, I want us to have a brand new diet. So that way he doesn't know anything different than this diet. Okay. And so I set a time frame. And again, one of the things we talked about last week in terms of goal setting a hardcore time frame that allows you to either one, be successful or to fail. So I set this time frame, and if I'm not mistaken, it was like April, May. You know, by the end of April, by the end of May, I'll no longer eat meat. And there's a couple of reasons why this is important. Is I'm drawing a line, and I'm also allowing the opportunity for breakdown. Now, what is a breakdown? A breakdown is when you don't keep your word to yourself. A few weeks ago, we talked about personal integrity, right? And by the way, personal integrity is personal. Nobody else can tell you whether or not you have personal integrity because only you know your intentions. In this case, the intention is to no longer eat meat, right? To no longer eat meat. Now, if that's all I did, I will tell you right now, I would not have been successful with the goal. And you might be saying, well, Linal, you did all the things that you teach. You had your what for, right? Your goal, like why you have the goal. Not only did you have the what for, but you wrote it down, right? So it was written down. It was time bound, right? The other thing I did is, you know, I also had my reverse milestones. So I gave up certain meat a little bit at a time, right? We already had cut back on beef. So now it was like, all right, no more bacon first. Okay. Right? And then like chicken and turkey were the last things to go. So you're like, Linal, you've done all the things that you talk about in your book. What's missing? Why do you say that even if you had done all these things, you may not have still reached the goal? The reason I say that is because there was no mental fuel. There was no mental fortification for changing a habit like that. And that's one of the things that we don't honor the power of a habit. In, I believe it's chapter 4 of my book, what I talk about is what will you stop? And I'll talk more about that chapter, but later in the book, one of the things I talk about is the power of then aligning your inputs. Let me say it again. The power of then aligning your inputs to your goal. What do I mean? So, and by the way, this is one of the secrets. This is one of the things that you can scour the blogs on goal setting. You can scour the books on goal setting. They won't tell you this. What you have to do is you have to fortify your mind. How do you do that? What my wife and I did is we began watching documentary after documentary on the harm of meat. Now, why is that important? Because like I said, you have hardcore habits. You're wired a particular type of way. And in order for you to change these habits, you have to indoctrinate yourselves. All right, think about somebody who's never been to church before. And then all of a sudden they start going to church. And they say, I've transformed my life. You know, maybe it's not just the church. Maybe it's the mosque. Whatever it is. I've transformed my life. What does the minister say? What does the leader of that movement say? Keep coming back. It is of the utmost importance that you keep coming back so that you can learn more about how to live this life, so that you can gather the information and become indoctrinated in terms of what it means to live this life. For every last one of your goals, if you are not in the process of indoctrinating yourself, of psychologically brainwashing yourself to achieve that goal, the likelihood of your success is slim. The likelihood that you are successful with that goal, you can follow all the things that I talk about. You can clearly define success. You can have a very clear what for. We're going to talk more about that. You can write it down. What you write down can be time bound. But then if you're not feeding yourself information aligned with the vision you have for that goal, the likelihood that you are successful is very slim. I believe the stats are, that 8% of people, only 8% of people who have a resolution achieve it. And then of those 8% that actually resolve something, right? Only 10% of them actually achieve the goals that they write down. So based on those stats, what I know already is that when it comes to goal setting, most of us are no good at it. The stats say it. Most of us don't know how to keep our goals. Most of us, when we set goals, we abandon those goals. And what I'm here to do today is to help you begin achieving goals and completely transforming your life. So what happened? My wife and I, we began watching documentaries. And as we watch these documentaries, we all of a sudden, our desire for meat begins to shift, right? It's the appetite began to go away because now I'm taking in information that is actually solidifying and uplifting the goal itself. That is one of the critical secrets of goal setting that often we are not taught. I'm going to continue to cover these secrets, but first we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to talk about the secret of accountability and how you can hold yourself accountable in a way that'll keep your goals top of mind and challenge you every day. We'll be right back. My name is Linal Harris. You're listening to Inspirational Perspective right here on WVON 1690 AM, the talk of Chicago.
Okay, Sean J says the iHeartRadio is not working.
Yeah, the internet's down. Yeah, so Sean, sorry about that.
You say that every year around this
But when the internet's down, that's what happens. Listen to this commercial, though. It's one of mine.
Different results? Why don't you just join the Slay Your Goals membership program?
Slay Your Goals membership? What's that?
Slay Your Goals is a monthly membership program that teaches you the science of goal setting and gives you access to a community of others like you and me who care about reaching our life's goals. We have a monthly call to hold each other accountable, not to mention my favorite part, the hot seat coaching. The calls are led by Linal Harris, a certified life coach. Maybe it's time to try something new to reach your goals. Go to slayyourgoals.com and download this book for free. Then sign up for the membership.
Slayyourgoals.com? That's great. Let me get off this phone and sign up right now.
Also, my father, he was trying to pay for the summit.
Oh, yeah?
And he was having some problems on the website.
With the early bird?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we're back. You're listening to Inspirational Perspective. I'm your host, Linal Harris, your very own life coach, right here on WVON 1690 AM, the talk of Chicago. All right, well, we're talking about the secret science of goal setting and why so many of us, although we want to achieve our goals, so few of us do. The first secret I just shared was being intentional about your inputs. See, when I talk about intentional accountability, I think right away people think I'm gonna go straight to coaching. Oh man, he's about to sell coaching. I can't afford coaching. What is he about to do? Well, I'm gonna talk about coaching. That's one of them, right? But there's so many other things that we can do that will allow us to hold ourselves accountable. And the first secret is intentional inputs. You know, so when you look at your goals, like, and I'll tell you, one of the common goals that many of us have when it comes to the beginning of the year is around our health and our well-being. I know I set another goal this year for my health and my well-being. Got London Ketchum in the studio this morning.
Hey, how's it going, Linal?
I'm good. And London, you set any goals this year, brother?
Yes, sir. My main goal is to have my video production company.
Okay, to get that started?
Yes.
All right, awesome. Well, you can have that done by the end of January. Let's talk about it. What's the time frame on that? What time frame did you?
I want to have that started at least by the beginning of spring. That was my day.
By the beginning of spring?
Yes.
What day is that?
I said April 1st. That
April 1st?
Yes.
Okay, April 1st. All right. So you want to, and what does that look like when you say your video production company started by the beginning of April? What does that look like for you?
It looks like it's going to happen.
Okay, but I mean, is it the company? Do you have like what? I mean, the company on paper? Is it an LLC?
Yes, an LLC.
Okay.
I'm actually in the process of doing that right now.
Okay. All right, awesome. Do you have logos?
I actually just paid one of my good friends. He's a graphic designer.
Okay.
Ron Flair. He does really good work. He's working on a logo for me.
Okay, awesome. All right, so you already have certain milestones kind of created already in terms of the achievement of this goal by April 1st.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Now, what about intentional inputs? Like, what are you doing in terms of learning more or indoctrinating yourself around the importance of having your own business?
Well, I've been doing more research.
Okay.
I'll be honest, a lot of time I go on YouTube and search different things with different companies who are doing the things that I want to do.
Okay.
And watching you.
Okay. Got it.
I'll say being here working with you, I've learned a lot, especially with goal setting and actually attacking those goals.
Got it. Okay. So you have, you're in the studio for 2 hours. So you have these inputs. You listen to the audio. So you have these inputs. When I say he listens to the audio, he edits the audio for the show, etc. So you have these inputs that are, but do you have specific inputs around creating a business and why? Listen to me. Why, when I say this, why after the 2018 tax cuts, you want to have a business? And let me give you, let me tell you all something like that I tell the people I love. I was just having a conversation with my brother. My brother and his wife, both of them have great jobs. And they work, they get W-2s. And I told my brother, I said, it's time for you to start a business, man. And he was like, yeah? I mean, because, when we're in a comfortable place, often we're not, that's comfort. You know how they say good is the enemy of great?
Yes.
Good is the enemy of great.
Yeah, because anybody could be good.
Yeah.
The average Joe can be good.
Yeah. Well, not anybody. Not anybody can be good. There's a lot of people out here trying to get to good. I mean, they're trying to, and for them, that's the next level is, they might feel great. Okay. But then what happens is when you get to what's great yesterday, it becomes good tomorrow. That makes sense?
That makes a lot of sense.
Okay. So we have to be careful. But, so they're doing good, and I told him, I said, you need to start a business. He's like, why? I said, because the government's going to be taking all y'all money. Because this new 2018 tax cut that went in place, everybody with a W-2, y'all hear me out. They are taking more money than they ever have from people with jobs. And the people who are getting the break are entrepreneurs, are people who have businesses. So how do you get past that? Well, if you have a W-2, you start a business. And you start investing in that business so you can write off part of your W-2 income towards the business. So that way they're not taking as much as they normally would take. How do I know that? Well, because I have business inputs. You see where I'm going, London?
Yes.
Yeah. And so what that does is if I didn't have a business, it would begin to push me towards, oh man, I would start to have a healthy anxiety. Sometimes anxiety is healthy.
Okay.
Right? When you're like, man, how much am I spending on taxes? And this is not good. And you start to feel uncomfortable about where things are and what I need to do differently. This type of anxiety is good. And so that type of anxiety will drive you to take action and drive you to gain clarity in your life in areas where you're unclear. What I tell my clients often is anxiety is just a sign that there's a lack of clarity somewhere in your life. And so instead of running to the doctor right away, and I'm not, hey, there are people out there who have anxiety issues, don't get me wrong, right? But for most of us, that anxiety is healthy. And what you need to do is sit down and actually address it, be with it, to find out what's not clear in your life, and then begin to create clarity. But I use London as an example. So let's talk about, so you have a goal for your business. Yes. You have intentional inputs. Is it written down?
Yes.
Okay, it is written down. How often do you read it?
I'll say I'll go over it once a week.
Once a week?
Once a week.
That's dangerous.
Is it too less? Is it not enough?
Well, how important is this goal to you?
It's very important.
So,
but even though I look at that list once a week, but I work on my craft so I can be stronger in going towards my goals.
You got a girlfriend?
Yes, sir.
You call her, you talk to her once a week?
No. I talk to her every day.
You talk to her every day?
Every day.
You talk to her every day?
Yes, sir.
Really? Now, I don't want to get you in any trouble, but a man's purpose should be the most important thing to him in his life. Is this creating this company a part of your purpose?
Yes, sir.
It is?
Because I want to get my art out there because I'm also a script writer.
Okay. And so that means that your purpose should be more important than your relationship.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I wasn't going to force you to say yes, sir, because she might be listening. She might be like, what?
she knows she's a real man.
That she's an important piece of your life, right?
Piece
and any woman listening, by the way, I said this on Friday too, when I was on this other radio show. But if your man, if your boyfriend don't have a purpose, run, run, get out of here, get out of there. If he don't have a purpose. But anyway, so your business is a part of your purpose, and it's one of the most important things. Like, this is part of your purpose, and your purpose is one of the most important things in your life.
Yes.
But you only read your goal once a week.
Yes.
Now, you tell me, can you see the flaw in that?
Yes. Hearing me say that out loud, I automatically hear the flaw in that.
And what do you hear is the flaw?
I don't read my goals enough.
How often do you think one should read their goals?
Now, every day.
Every day.
Every day. Every day.
See, like the secrets that I'm talking about this morning, they're not like rocket science. These are little tangible things that if you take them on, you will see a difference in your ability to actually achieve your goals. Because think about this. If London is reading his goal to start his business every day, what is he thinking about every day?
My business.
You're thinking about your business. And then if he's thinking about his business every day, what's the likelihood that when opportunities and different things come across his path that will benefit his business, what's the likelihood that he will notice it and take action on it?
The likelihood is, the chances are great.
They're higher than they were, right? I mean, yeah, when you were reading them weekly, they were there.
Yes.
But then if I'm reading them every day, now all of a sudden, like the likelihood is higher that I'm thinking about that. One of the things I say in the book is one of the number one ways that one of the number one reasons we don't achieve our goals is because we forget them. We forget them. And some of y'all right now, y'all like, oh, that's horrible. But think about your 2018 goals. And if you didn't complete them all, it's not likely that you just didn't complete them because you didn't care. You didn't complete them is because they fell off the radar. They fell off your radar. And when they're not on your radar, then there's no alerts. Like, think about a radar system, right? How it swings around, boop, you know.
Yeah.
And when something beeps, you look, boop. Oh, what's that on the radar, right? Hey, we have an incoming craft. The incoming craft is our incomplete goal for 2018. What we're going to do about that? You get where I'm going?
I do.
Right? So for 2019, you might want to change up how you handle your goals. Every day. Every day. See, because if you think about it, your goals are the most important thing that you have going on in your life right now. And I'm going to talk about where you should set the goals. But again, the science of goal setting, if this is not one of the most important things to you, it shouldn't be on the list. And I've had clients in the past who said, Linal, man, you want me to read my goals every day? Do you know how much time that takes? I sure do. You shouldn't have more goals than what 2 minutes of reading them would allow. And I want you to hear that out, right? 2 minutes. Right now, if I pulled out my one pager for 2019 and I walked through my goals, they're 5.
Okay.
If I walk through my goals, it would take me less than 120 seconds to read those goals out loud. First is my well-being goal,
Okay.
right around my health, my mental fortitude, my spirituality, my overall well-being. Second is my relationship goal,
Okay.
right? And where I want to see my relationship with Pam go, and the vision I have for our marriage. Third is my work goal, which is aligned to my purpose. What I'm creating aligned with my purpose as a coach, a speaker, radio host, an entrepreneur on the planet, right? Fourth is, and by the way, underneath the work goal, I have these smaller subset goals, right? So the Murder Mediocrity Summit is coming up. I have a goal around that. Let me tell you, for those of you who attended the summit last year, you know, afterwards, people said, Linal, this was amazing. You know, I didn't know what to expect, but I was wowed by the summit. The summit really moved me. The summit made a difference for me. That wasn't by happenstance. That was a goal. Like even now, the goal for 2019 is, and by the way, I can say it from memory because I read it every day, is to 2x the Murder Mediocrity Summit and provide transformation, healing, and the help to take everyone who attends to the next level through a transformational experience, right? So the summit is an experience. And I want this experience to transform everybody in the audience. By the way, there's a goal around how many people are in the audience, right? Like it's part of the goal. The goal has a measure. So it's to sell out the UIC space that they gave me. So it's at the UIC, and we have 411 seats. And it's to sell it out. That's part of the goal. Why is that important? Because I want as many people in Chicago, as many people who are willing to travel into Chicago, when they get there, to have a transformational experience. That they say, wow, because I went to the summit, I'm better. I have that written down. That's part of my vision. And then I can already see the summit. I can already see what's happening. It's the Murder Mediocrity Summit. Murder Mediocrity Summit and Experience. By the way, if you haven't gotten your early bird tickets, you want to get them now. Because when February comes, I'm going to start announcing speakers, and the price is going to go up. The tickets are $37 right now. $37. It's a $97 ticket. That's $60 off, 60% off the summit. You go to murdermediocrity.com and use the early bird discount code, early bird, no spaces, discount code to purchase your tickets. But that's part of the goal, right? So then let me tell you about the summit, right? Because, you know, sometimes I think people think things automatically or automagically, right? Automagically happen. And things don't automatically happen. They happen because there's a vision. And then the vision has certain executables like milestones and action plans that help execute on bringing the vision to life. And so I've been working this summit since the last summit ended. Now some of it hasn't been tangible action, right? I didn't sign the rental paperwork for the space at UIC until the end of November, right? But so like some of this action didn't necessarily happen right away, but you can believe that part of the action were intentional inputs. Intentional inputs, right? Like, how do the greats put on a conference or a seminar that transform other people? So I'm going to these conferences, right? And I'm watching everything they do, right? I'm looking at videos of summits and conferences, and I'm watching everything they do. I'm noticing what the speakers do. I'm noticing what the guests who come in and speak do. And I'm thinking about you all and the experience I want you all to have. It's on my mind. So then when people come to the summit on March 23rd, they'll think, man, Linal, how does he do this? I follow the same exact formula that I'm laying out for you. And I guarantee you that if you follow the formula, you can do the same things. Like, it's not magic. I'm not doing anything that no one else can do. Right? It's just following the process and not cheating on the process, following the process for goal setting. And let me tell you something. Last year's summit, man, I was petrified. I didn't start really taking on activity to the beginning of 2018 because fear, I want you to hear me out. And this is the power of writing it down, London, right? Sure. Fear had me completely disabled. I was so petrified of doing the Murder Mediocrity Summit in 2017, like towards the end of 2017, that when I would read my goals every day, like I would be tempted to skip over reading them. Wow. So let me tell you all something. If I weren't reading my goals every day, the Murder Mediocrity Summit would have never happened. Because my survival mechanism, everything inside of me wanted to avoid that goal. Why? Because I didn't know how to do it. I had never done anything like that before. I didn't know how to do it. And so this is one of the other reasons why we want intentional inputs, right? Not just listening to audio, watching video that reinforces the goal, but also personal intentional accountability. What is personal intentional accountability? Reading my goals every day. Reading my goals every day. Because every time I read that goal, something came up inside of me that said, you got to take action. You got to push past this fear. You got to figure out how to begin to take action on this, Linal. Because every day I read that goal, I was holding myself accountable to the goal. Now, let me tell you something. I don't think I've talked about this before. But I had declared there would be a Murder Mediocrity Summit all the way back in 2012. And I want you all to hear me out. Because many of us, we have ideas, we have things that we said we're going to do, and we said it a decade ago. And that thing still pulls on us. And some of us have convinced ourselves that we don't have the capacity to do it. There's a quote by Richard Bach that I love. And the quote goes that any man or woman that is given an idea is also given the capacity to execute on that idea. And I love that quote because I believe it with all my heart. That if you were given an idea, if you were given a dream, if you were given a vision, doesn't matter if you know how. What matters is you hold yourself accountable to the idea, to the vision, to the dream that you've been given. I think all too often that we take our own genius for granted. We'll sit back and we'll call other people geniuses, but the only reason we call them geniuses is because they execute on their ideas. That's it. That's why they're a genius to us. We look at Elon Musk and we go, oh man, he's a genius. This man is He's extraordinary. But really all Elon Musk has done is he's had outlandish ideas. And then he takes the idea and he executes on it. No matter how afraid it makes him, no matter how uncomfortable it makes him, he executes on the idea. And then we watch him execute. And then when he's successful, by the way, here's a man who's had ideas that have failed time after time after time. Lost great deals of money. But we don't know about that. Like most of us don't know about the failures, right? About the many failures that he's experienced. About, you know, like the SpaceX rockets. I think 12 or 13 times those rockets blew up before one actually got into orbit. Right? We don't hear about that, but then when there's a success, you know, it's printed across the newspapers and it's in our internet feed on Facebook, and we read it and we go, wow. I wish I could do that. I wish I could execute on things. He's a genius. No, you're a genius too. You get ideas. You have dreams. You have a vision. And it's your ability or inability to execute on that vision that will predict the outcome of your life. When we come back, more on the secrets of the science of goal setting. Stay right here. You do not want to miss what's next. You've been listening to Inspirational Perspective. I'm your host, Linal Harris, your very own life coach, right here on WBON 1690 AM, the Talk of Chicago. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. It's 8:07 on the Talk of Chicago this morning. You're listening to Inspirational Perspective with Linal Harris. I'm your life coach. And we've been talking about the science of goal setting, the secret science of goal setting. While we're on break, I'm talking to the Facebook audience. By the way, I'm streaming live right here from the Xfinity WBON studios on Facebook. You can go to my Facebook page at Linal Harris to join the stream, join that conversation. But I was sharing with them, I bought this book on setting goals, a goal handbook. And it's not actually that big. I think there's, how many pages are in here? This guy, he has 64 pages, all right? My book is 40 pages, but, you know, how he covers goal setting so complicated. And one of the other secrets is your goals should be simple. They should be simple. And let me tell you something. If you're not taking a simple approach, that's one of the surest ways to know that you're going to give up. There's enough complicated stuff in life that we don't want to do, that we have to do, that you don't want to complicate your goals. Taxes are complicated. I spent yesterday afternoon, man, just getting everything ready for the accountant for this January 15th deadline for us entrepreneurs. And it's complicated. That's complicated. I don't want my goals to be complicated. So, keep it simple. But before the break, we talked about intentional inputs, the importance of intentional inputs when it comes to goal setting. If you missed that part, I would strongly encourage you to go back and check out the first half of the show on Facebook. When you have the opportunity, make it an important priority, because again, I'm sharing the secrets of the science of goal setting and many of the things that we don't know about goal setting, which is why we don't accomplish our goals. If you have questions, give me a phone call, 773-591-1690. And then we talked about intentional accountability, right? London gave us a great example. Thank you for the vulnerability and the openness, brother.
Thank you.
Gave us a phenomenal example of why intentional accountability is so important when it comes to our goals. And what we talked about is reading the goal every day. I asked him the question of, how often. So one of the goals is to start a business.
Yes.
And he wants to have that accomplished by April 1st. So everything's right. He's got it written down. It's time bound. Have you written out the vision, what this looks like?
Yes.
Yeah, so he's got it all handled. He's done, textbook, it's right. But one of the secrets they don't tell you is, then you have to create some intentional accountability for yourself. And part of that intentional accountability is reading that goal every day. Every day. The question I asked him is, how often does he talk to his girlfriend? He talks to his girlfriend once a week. He said, no, that relationship wouldn't work, would it?
No, not at all.
If you were talking to her once a week. As a matter of fact, she would probably feel like you didn't love her.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, I'm all in front, man. I'm sorry. You might not even told her you love her yet. My bad, brother.
Trust me, I love her.
Okay, all right. Okay, so y'all, mature relationship. That's good. Because I know how it is. When I was your age, I didn't use that LOVE word like that.
Yeah, but we honest with each other.
That's good, man. That's good. That's good. You avoid a lot of the foolishness that I didn't avoid.
Play games. We don't play games.
Yeah, no, that's good, man. But my point was that if he's not saying his goals every day, it's an indication, like many of you, your goals don't feel loved. Because you're not reading them every day. You're not talking about them every day. They're not on your mind. You know, my wife would say, you don't think about me. I don't feel loved. Right? So your goals don't feel loved. And when people don't feel loved, what do? They leave.
Yeah.
This is why many of our ideas leave. They escape us. They go away. So again, there's a science to this, and that's what we're talking about this morning, the science of goal setting. So my wife was on Facebook, and she reminded me of Henry Ford. And I want to talk about his story real quick, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about intentional accountability. And then I want to end the hour by talking about purposeful action, and I got some phone calls as well. But before I take the phone calls, Henry Ford, we all know Henry Ford. And one of my favorite stories about Henry Ford was a story about him working to create the 6-cylinder engine. So that Model T, my cousin on Facebook said, goals are commitment. That's right, Tony, man. Commitment. And let's look at this story with Henry Ford from the lens of commitment to the goal. So that Model T was a 4-cylinder car. And so as technology began to evolve, you know, Henry Ford, he wanted to take it to the next level, like many of us do. And so he talked to his engineers and he said, we need a 6-cylinder car. And his engineers said, well, no one has ever done that. And, you know, that's almost impossible to put 6 cylinders into an engine based on how the engines were made. You know, because back in the day, you know, it would go like this, you know, sideways, right? The engine would pull sideways. And that's impossible, Mr. Ford. And he says, well, I want it done. We're going to use London's date by April 1st. That's what he told his engineers, right? So it was time bound. And so every week he'd check in with them. How's it going? Mr. Ford, it's not going well. Like we told you, can't be done. It can't be done. And let me tell you something. When it comes to our goals, one of the biggest mistakes we make is listening to other people and their opinion about the goals. Linal, what you're trying to do can't be done. London, what you're trying to do can't be done. Tony, what you're trying to do can't be done. Melissa's on the phone line. Melissa, what you're trying to do can't be done. No one's ever done that. And that's one of the reasons we stop. We actually use that and as an excuse to stop. And Henry Ford, when he got this from his engineers, he said, well, if you're telling me it can't be done, that means I have the wrong engineers. Right? Maybe I need to go hire somebody else. Right? All of a sudden, the tune changed. Well, give us another week. Give us another week. Give us another month to try to figure it out. One of the reasons why many of us are not taking ourselves to greatness is because there's not enough tension. There's not enough tension in our lives, right? We're living a good life, and that good life has us comfortable, and we're so comfortable that we're like, well, if I do, you know, it's okay, and if I don't, it's okay. You know, we don't want to put anything on the line. That's one of the reasons I didn't want to do the Murder Mediocrity Summit. I didn't want to put my reputation on the line. I didn't want people to show up and have a bad experience and fail, and then my reputation is on the line. And so there's no tension. And let me tell you something, you know, if you're setting goals, you want to have a healthy amount of tension. You know, that goal should scare you a little bit. It should make you uneasy when you think about it. That's how you know the goal is big enough. So anyway, Henry Ford, he tells them, I need this 6-cylinder engine. And if you can't do it, maybe I don't have the right engineers. Now, mind you, Henry Ford had very little education. And y'all know how it is when smart people talk to us. You know, people who are smart in certain areas. Well, you don't understand, Mr. Ford. See, the way this works is X, Y, and Z. My wife and I, we took my son to the doctor. We're having a conversation about my son and you know, the vaccination schedule. Like, we're not going to do this like everybody else. This is what we want to do. And he was like, oh, Mr. Harris, you don't understand. This is how you got to do it. No, I know what I want to do. I've done the work. I'm clear, right? I'm the steward for my son. I know, but we'll listen. We'll let that kind of stuff scare us off our path. You hear what I'm saying?
I hear you.
Right? And people with information, so-called experts, will tell us that that's never been done. You know, that goes unreasonable. Mr. Henry Ford said, well, that means you're not the right expert. You're not the right expert. And get this. A month later, they came back and they said, Mr. Ford, we're excited to tell you that we figured out how to create the 6-cylinder engine. This is the same engine that the same engineer said was impossible to make. And this is where commitment comes in. Commitment's one of those tangible secrets to goal setting that I'm going to talk about a lot next week. All right. But intentional accountability. Intentional accountability. Now, there was a question on Facebook. I'm going to cover that one next. But first, Melissa, good morning. You're on the air. We got her? Can I get her? Is Patrick over there? I'm hitting the button. All right, Melissa, give me a second. Let me take this question off Facebook and then we'll come to you because my board in the, Melissa, can you hear me? Good morning. All right, there we go. Melissa, good morning. Can you hear me? All right. Yes, I can hear you. How are you doing? Excellent. Okay, okay.
At times we don't know where to start. And I say that because I was going through that cycle for a number of years. I consider myself an entrepreneur at heart. And every business idea I've ever had came with a vision. But I'm a Christian, and I do believe that any vision of greatness I receive comes from God. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes those visions are way bigger than our imagination can handle. So I had to learn over the course of these years how to set micro goals based off the larger vision I have.
Got it.
So I've always had, let's say I have a vision of owning a salon, and this salon is so spectacular and so wonderful and can bring so many services to my targeted customer base. And I've had this vision for a while, and I've been doing hair for a long time, but I don't even have a license.
Got it. Got it.
So before I can look for investors, before I can find a place to work or, to have this business, before I can even make some business cards, I have to get an education.
That's very true. Melissa, are you open to some coaching?
Yes, I am.
All right.
Absolutely.
Why do you want a salon? Like what's...
I was using it as an example. I don't have a vision of owning a salon.
Oh, that's an example. Okay, I thought that was a real. Okay, that's just an example.
I say it because
Okay.
I'll actually be finished with cosmetology.
Okay. All right.
At the end of this month, and I always had a vision of working in high-end
salon,
like travel,
Got it.
destination,
Got it.
cruise ships and stuff. But I knew that was the vision for myself to work in, vacation destinations and stuff. But I only wanted to work in 4- and 5-star places.
Got it.
So at the end of my program, which I am now, and it was time to start applying for jobs, I did not apply for any salons or spas that were less than 5 stars.
There you go, and that's a line. That's a line to the goal. So, yep, excellent. Melissa, thank you so much for the phone call. That's good stuff. I want to address something she was talking about in terms of large goals versus small goals, because many of us are given visions that are big, and the big vision, you do not want to abandon a large vision, a big vision. There's a science to how you go about it, but you do not want to abandon the large vision. And so let me give you some steps on how to go about this. And so if you have a pen and pad, by all means write this down. If not, then come back to this part of the conversation on Facebook and write it down when you have the opportunity. And Jay, I see you. But when you have a big vision, first, make sure you write the vision down. Write it down and use your 5 senses as best you can. What does it look like? What does it taste like? What does it feel like to your physical senses, to your emotional senses when you accomplish this vision? So you want to use those 5 senses. But then after you have the vision, what you want to do is you want to create your goal statement in a way that encompasses the vision upon completion, right? What is the experience you will have when you meet that vision? And once you have that down, then what you want to do is you want to set some milestones. And you want to work from the completion of the vision to where you are today. So we call them, in coaching, we call them reverse milestones. All right. Now, I'm going to use the example she gave of owning a salon, but I don't even have my license, right? I don't even have a cosmetology license. If you can have that vision, and it's okay to make that a goal. Now, the likelihood of you accomplishing that goal in a year is slightly unrealistic, right? Because it might take, I don't know how long it takes to get to cosmetology school, but let's say it's a year or two. This might be a 5-year vision, okay, right? And so for 2019, the vision could be simply, like she was saying, in terms of smaller goals, getting my license, yes, and being at the top of my class for my license. But it also could be, while I'm getting my license, learning as much as I can about business, right? Because I know I want to own a business. So it could be, part of that goal. So the reverse milestone would be, in December to graduate. But another milestone might be to become a shampoo girl in a high-end salon, so I know how they run things, or receptionist, whatever it may be, by August of that year, before I graduate.
So what you want to do is write your goals down and your milestones to those goals.
That's right.
Exactly.
And you want to do the milestones in reverse. Many of us look from where we are to where we want to go, and that's why we get distracted by how. Let me say that one more time. Many of us, the mistake we make when we're setting goals is we look from where we are to where we want to go. And that's one of the biggest distractions when we're setting goals, because the question that will come into your spirit almost immediately is how? How am I going to do that? Because you're operating from where you are now. Let's go back to the summit. How am I going to host a sold-out Murder Mediocrity Summit? I've never done something like that before. Right?
Right.
So when you're thinking about something like that, you wanna get very clear on where you are going to be and operate from that place backwards. Because that's when all of a sudden certain things will reveal themselves to you. Okay, I want to have, if I'm going to do the summit, the date for the summit is March 23rd. So that means that a month before the summit, I need to have sold, X amount of tickets. That means I need to have my staff in place. That means I need to have my volunteers. Okay, well, if I need to have all those things, then that means 3 months before the summit, I need to be talking to people about being on staff. I need to hire people. I need to hire an event planner. So I'm working myself back all the way to where I am now, where typically there's only 1 or 2 actions to take. That makes sense?
That makes a lot of sense.
And so then I focus only on those actions. That's it. And then when I cross those actions off the list, I go to the next step. It's called eating the elephant one bite at a time. But many of us will have a big grand idea and we're overwhelmed by the idea. Right now, my wife and I are working a big idea that I have. And the first step is simply to go back to Rwanda. That's the first step. Why would I allow the idea to overwhelm me in terms of, man, what would it look like? Would I have to hire a CEO? How big can this company get? What is sales and marketing going to look like? Why would I can't worry about all that. Right? All there is to do is, well, I know they have manufacturing in Rwanda. I have ties there. So let me begin those conversations. And that's the first go. That's the first step. That's the first milestone. And so all my actions are focused on that milestone. And then when I complete it and cross it off, then I'll go to the next level. I'll go to the next milestone. And I don't have to worry about CEOs and marketing and all that kind of stuff until I'm at that milestone. But hopefully that made sense to you all. It's in the book. The book is free, slayyourgoals.com. You might need to reread that chapter on taking purposeful action. Taking purposeful action. Again, this whole conversation around goal setting, it's a science. Now, I got a question on Facebook I want to discuss. And it came from something I said in terms of, knowing, like, sometimes you got to stop certain things. And the question was, discuss how to determine what to stop when there are a lot of things that I love, a lot of things that I know how to do, right? And let me be clear on this, because those of us who have lots of talents, often those talents become one of our biggest distractions. And this is why I say write your goals down, read them every day, right? Because the first question I have for myself when I'm taking something new on is, how does this align to my goals? I'll give you a perfect example. So you guys know, many of you guys know I was on with Sonia Blakey on Friday on her radio show. Okay. And before I accepted, I looked at my goals. And I said, okay, what does this align with? Well, I have the opportunity to talk about Slay Your Goals. I have an opportunity to share with the audience, some of the structures I put in place to help people with their goals. So that aligns with the growth of Slay Your Goals. It aligns with the growth of my business and what it is that I'm up to. But even with all of that, I was still like, I don't know if I should do it. So I had a conversation with my wife, and she was like, no, you should go. You should do it. But I'm at a point now where I'm more apt to say no than I am to say yes, to saying yes to new things. And I want to make sure that it aligns with my goals. It's not about whether I have the competence or whether I enjoy doing it. The question becomes, does it align with what I'm up to in 2019? Right? So how do you know what to stop? Well, what are your 2019 goals? What do you have down on paper in terms of what you're up to? And then if whatever this isn't aligned with that, you should not be doing it. You should not be doing it. You should be saying no. And let me tell you something. No is hard to say when it comes to working on goals, because the natural tendency is to resist the goal and go in the other direction. So the things you should be saying no to are going to come easier to you than actually working on your goals. And that's another part of the science of goal setting. When I feel resistance, I know I'm doing the right thing, right? There was a lot of resistance to going back to Rwanda. This time it's not out of the fear of not knowing what I'm going to run into. It's like, well, man, the flight is long. That's a lot of resistance, right? So then that tells me I probably should be going. That's where I should be. That's what I should be doing next. Before I go to Rwanda, I'm taking some time to dive in Tanzania. There's resistance to that. Like I have to force myself to identify what hotel, what diving center I'm going to use. Like I have to force myself. It's not easy. You say, man, really? But part of it's because I need a break. I know I need a break. And my survival mechanism is fighting against that because it knows I need that pit stop right now. So it's like, nah, don't do that. No, you don't have time to do that. It wants to sabotage the break I'm creating for myself. So that's another way for you to know whether you should do something or not. If you feel resistance, you probably should be doing it. If you don't feel resistance, you should ask yourself twice, should I be doing it? Hopefully that answers that question. All right. Okay. Jay, good morning. How are you? I'm well. How are you?
Good. I know you will. I just want to give you a compliment, man. I'm listening to you talk, and you're really on top of your game. I heard you. You're talking to the guy London in the studio with you right now.
Yep.
You asked him a ridiculous question. What do you see your girlfriend? You talk to her once a week. He was like, no, every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he was very compassionate about that. You know, yeah, I love her, you know, talking to her every day. And then we talked to him about his business issue. And I think he was like once a week or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, you went to like, if you love that business that much, you know, you could like compare it with like him loving his woman. And you should do that every day as well.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you something, bro. And I talked to you before too.
Yeah.
On Remington. Back in the 90s.
Okay.
It was something interesting about our conversation then, and I'm listening to you again now. I haven't heard this show before.
Okay.
Your game is strong.
I appreciate that, brother.
You should talk to women that allow men to abuse them and allow women, allow men to misuse them, and people that can get caught up in the street life and not go into all their talents and develop themselves in the best way. Dude, you got skills.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the acknowledgement, brother.
And that's real strong. And I heard it, and you did it so smooth, so slick. You can do a whole lot with your conversation, and I'm going to leave it just like that. You
Okay.
smooth. You good. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. Well, you know, with that acknowledgement, I'll take a break. Joel, I see you. Freddie, I see you. We're going to talk to them about their questions around goal setting. And then when we come back, more on taking purposeful action. Action is the key. You don't want to miss this part to end the show. You've been listening to Inspirational Perspective. I'm your host, Linal Harris, your very own life coach, right here on WVON 1690 AM, the Talk of Chicago. We'll be right back after the 60-second break. All right, we're back. You're listening to Inspirational Perspective. I'm your host, Linal Harris, your very own life coach, right here on WVON 1690 AM, the Talk of Chicago. We've been talking about goals, the secret science of goal setting, and some of the small intangibles that we're not taught. You know, all too often, it's funny, Friday morning, one of the gentlemen who was in the studio was a school teacher, and he went live on Facebook, and he was like, what is my student doing on Facebook Live? They should be in class. And I told them, I said, they can learn more here than they'll learn in class, because we're not getting taught this. Imagine if instead of having to take the Constitution test to graduate 8th grade, you had to take a test on setting and achieving goals. Like, where would we be? You know, how would we be living? What would change in your life if you knew this science? If you had to use this science to get through high school and college, right? You kept getting tested on it. They kept quizzing you on it because they wanted you to be a powerful being in this life. But that's not what they want. So they teach you all the things to, you know, basically plug you into as a cog in the wheel of this society, and make it where, you know, many of us will never have the opportunity to really live out our purpose and create massive change the way we're supposed to. So, such an important conversation. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you for listening. If you haven't been on and you wish you had, you can always go to Facebook and catch the entirety of the show on my page at Linal Harris, and then you can always go to YouTube to catch the shows. By the middle of the week, this show should be up and out. All right, Joe. Good morning. How are you?
I was a little bit disappointed in myself because last year I went to the summit, and I had 4 goals. Mm-hmm. And I worked towards some, but I only really achieved 1 goal, which was like work related. But from listening to you, I figured out that the reason why I achieved the 1 goal is because I looked at that goal every day, and I put the goal as part of my login to my job. So every time I logged into my email, which could have been several times a day, I saw the goal.
Yeah.
So I did achieve that goal, but I had some goals around starting a business and being a vegan, losing weight, and some family goals, which I didn't achieve.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I did like the piece that you mentioned on the inputs, you know, because my doctor, he gave me several documentaries to read about being a vegan, and I didn't look at any of them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's your fuel.
I dabbled in it, but I didn't achieve it.
Right. And I love what you said, because it's that simple. You had to read that goal multiple times a day, and that's the 1 goal you said you accomplished.
Correct.
And the other goals, did you forget about them? Like, what happened? They just kind of fell off the radar?
Well, the one with the vegan, I wasn't consistent with that. I would, I don't think I had the background. The other goal...
and what's your why? Real quick, like, be a vegan for what?
A heart problem.
Okay.
I had to have surgery a while back, and so to keep my cholesterol down and keep my weight down.
Okay, so
they were saying that, and
so hold on, but that's not your why. That sounds like part of the what you're trying to solve for. When I ask you your why, like what for be a vegan? Like why be a vegan?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna think about that. I'm not really sure. But I just
Well, toss something at me real quick, because I love to help you, Joe, before you get off the phone. And what I heard, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but maybe I can lead you a bit to get you there quickly. What I heard is you have heart problems.
Right.
So would the why be around your health? A better health, feeling better?
Yeah, right, definitely. In the condition of life, too, quality of life.
Okay, so let me ask you this: why feel better?
Well, I mean, I just gotta, I'm 56 and I'm starting to feel, like I don't have as much energy as I used to. And I have younger kids, and just have a lot I want to do in life, so.
Got it.
I want to be more vigorous, for one thing.
And why do you want to be more vigorous?
I just want to enjoy life better, you know, and want to be around for my kids. I'm trying to start a business. I want to be able to not only...
Yeah, consider you just distinguished it. It sounds like to me your what for being a vegan is to live a better life and to be present for your children, fully present for your children.
Right.
And let me tell you something, being a vegan is hard. And so when you encounter resistance, that's what you have to remember. You have to almost program your mind to go there immediately when you encounter resistance. Wait a second, I don't want to eat this, or, you know, man, it'd be faster just to grab something right here at McDonald's. But you know what? No, I can't do that. And the reason why is because I want to operate with more energy. I want to have more vigor in my life, and I want to be fully present for my children. Maybe there's a picture of your children in a dashboard when you're driving around.
Right.
Can you see how being very clear on your what for now helps you push past the resistance to success?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. It's likely if you pulled into a fast food restaurant and you looked at that picture, you might pull out.
Right. Yeah, I definitely didn't do that as much, you know, with that. I did do some vision boards, but quite frankly, I didn't look at them that often.
Yeah, well, you gotta look at it. And your vision board, so everybody who does vision boards is not doing you any good in the back of the closet, you know, underneath a bunch of clothes. You know, the vision board is for your vision, so you can see it. So you can see it. Joel, thanks so much for the phone call, man. And God, will you be at the summit again this year?
Well, I'm still debating, but
what's the debate, brother? Did you get something last year?
I did get something, but I feel like I got so much that I didn't apply that I'm wondering, you know, if I should do it again.
Ooh, that's, you know what? I love that you said that.
I'm going to sign up for the tutoring. I mean,
for Slay Your Goals?
Yeah, I'm going to sign up for that.
Yeah. I love that you said that. I love that you said that. And real quick, before I let you go, I want to address that. Because often what happens is when we begin to operate in a new way, right? Well, I want to change my life. I'm going to go to the summit. I'm going to, you know, watch this documentary. It's too much. You know, when we were in the studio, Sonia Blakey's assistant, the person helping her, was like, "This is too much." You know, the information coming out. It was good information, but she was like, "It's too much. I'm overwhelmed." And one of the things, if you remember, Joel, at the beginning of the summit, I said, if there's just one thing that you can take that will transform your life, and what I heard is that you accomplished one thing.
Yeah.
And I semi-accomplished my business.
Yeah. And
I signed up for an entrepreneur program, and I was able to get my business plan.
yeah.
And then when I graduated, they gave me some seed money to move us forward.
Yep.
But I just, I didn't have dates set up for my goals. That's another thing.
And here's the thing. If you believe that you can hear all this type of information one time and it's going to completely transform your life, I don't know. It's almost like, I play sports. London, you play football. I play basketball. Did you play any sports in the past?
Basketball primarily.
Okay. Do you remember when you first started playing basketball?
Yeah.
Was it overwhelming?
It was, I played with the bigger kids, so it was a little bit,
Yeah. And what if you never got back on the court because it was a little overwhelming?
Right, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
And it's the same thing with the science of goal setting. It's the same thing when it comes to self-development. If you go to a self-development conference and you're overwhelmed, that shouldn't be an excuse. Mine or anybody else's, that shouldn't be an excuse not to go back. It should actually compel you to go again so that way you can absorb more of the information. So it can become a part of you to the point where when you go to these things, you're not overwhelmed. And by the way, when I go to self-development conferences now, all I'm hoping to do is get one or two things. A lot of stuff I heard before, right? A lot of stuff I teach. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's true, that's true. It'll be that one thing, and I'll be like, ooh, that was worth coming. That was worth the $1,000 I spent. Because that's about to transform me. And so I would challenge you and everybody else listening who may be putting off buying a ticket to the summit. Man, get the ticket now, brother. Early bird. Early bird. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Okay.
Well, that helped me out a lot.
All right, excellent, yeah. And thanks, Joel, so much for the phone call. And that's a great transition into the question we got from Facebook.
Okay.
Which is, what was the question again?
The question is, why is it so hard to say no?
Why is it so hard to say no? And I want you to notice something. Joel, he has resistance to come into the summit.
Yes.
So what's happening is, initially before I talked to him, and his resistance is around, well, I came last year. I got so much that I only did one thing that I feel like, why would I come again? But he did the one thing, right? And it's at the end, he realized, well, wait, if I hadn't gone to the summit, I wouldn't have done the one thing.
Exactly.
Right? And what happens is often we have condemnation around, I didn't do enough. I should have done better. And so we have to watch that. But here's the other thing. Why is it so hard to say no? Again, wherever there's resistance, that's where you want to practice saying yes. Like I told you all, when my brother invited me to go with him to the Millionaire Mind Intensive, there was resistance. I'm like, man, well, I'm going to that. I read the book. I'm good. I don't need to go to that. Right? I got so much out of going to it. And a lot of it was reminders, but it was the reminders that I needed. Right? The reminders that I needed, there was resistance to going. And part of it is we have to change our relationship to resistance. Why is it so hard to say no? You have to start asking yourself, is it hard to say no? And if it is, that's what I'm going to do. And if it's easy to say yes, that's what I'm going to pause on and think about. It's shifting your relationship to your resistance. Why is it so hard to say no to the things you shouldn't be doing? Because they're the things you shouldn't be doing. It is the arrangement of the energy that is in the universe. God designed it that way. Here's another point around why is it so hard to say no when it comes to being intentional, okay? When you set a goal, it's likely that you're not prepared to actually achieve the goal mentally, physically, spiritually. You're not prepared. And part of the preparation is the process of saying no to the things that you should be saying no to. Part of your preparation, part of your refinement actually comes from saying no and gathering more strength. So by the time the goal comes to the state of completion, you are a new person. No grows us. So when I'm saying no, for instance, when I remember when I was going through this whole, I opened the show talking about, my wife and I are giving up meat and how we use inputs to do that, right? I remember how hard it was to say no to meat. Man, I would be hungry and I'd be leaving a business meeting and I hadn't had lunch. The meeting went over and I'm hungry and I'm riding and everywhere I look, there's nothing healthy. And the only thing I can think of is, well, you could just get, a 6-piece chicken nugget, right? That'll hold you over with some honey mustard sauce. That'll hold you over. That's not so bad, Linal. You could do that. You don't get no 6-piece wings. That's a lot of meat. Yeah. But a 6-piece chicken nugget is okay. And man, I remember pulling into a Wendy's parking lot, man, and fighting with myself, right? I'm sitting, and the person behind me is like, you gonna pull up and make your order? Burr, 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 burr. And I had to pull over and park. And I'm sitting there, and I can smell the food. And I'm like, man, okay. But I said I wasn't going to eat no more, and I already made this mistake. I think I told y'all the story of how I pulled in and grabbed some nuggets, and I had the nuggets in my hand. I bit one, and then I threw the whole thing in the garbage. Right? And then I declared the breakdown. Okay, that was a breakdown. And I declared the breakdown, and I got recommitted. And I'm like, all right, what action are you going to take? Can't get this hungry no more, man. Right? You get weak. My point is, now, because of those fights, I don't have to fight anymore. I don't even see Wendy's. I don't even see McDonald's. I don't even see KFC. They're not even an option in terms of my diet. Because I fought to say no. I built my muscles saying no to the resistance. Now I can live the goal. Right? Now I'm on a whole nother level of health and well-being in my life. Another level of where I want to go in terms of my goal setting and my health as a result of having said no there. That's why no is so hard, because no is preparing you to take you to the next level. Hopefully that answered the question. All right. Okay. Let's finish up some of these phone calls before we have to end the show. Again, you get this level of teaching when you become a Slay Your Goals member all the time. You know, we're not going to be talking goals on the radio, you know, all year. Next week, we're going to talk a little Dr. King and stuff like that. But if you want to continue to get this type of conversation, you can become a Slay Your Goals member by going to slayyourgoals.com and using the Start 2019 discount code to get the first 30 days for $1. All right. Karen, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, King. How are you?
I'm well.
One of my goals is to push more people to listen to kings like yourself. Because most of us, more people need motivation. And just like the gentleman called, he answered his own question. He looked at his job's vision more than he looked at his vision. And why is it so hard to say no? Because marketing goes to extremes for you to say yes.
Woo! You hit it on the head.
Come on now.
Say that again, Karen.
Marketing goes to extremes for you to say yes when you need to be saying no.
These big businesses, Karen, you just knocked it out the park. These big businesses spend billions of dollars to get you to say yes.
Yes, and another thing we have to understand is that your surroundings, your conversation, you got 9 holes on your body. You choose what go in those holes. Turn off the news. You got people who look at the news every day.
That's right.
Turn the news off. Listen to people like Linal. Listen to him, because to get this, it's just what we've been trained to.
That's
see.
right.
And two things that gentleman called. I love this phone call. The one that said he wanted to get better with his heart. He basically answered his own questions. He basically said what he did not do. Let me just say this. They went to extremes to numb us down, so we got to go to extremes to pull us back up.
That's
so
right.
my goal this year is to get as many people that come in my presence to listen to a king like yourself, a queen like myself, like your wife. We've got to push the positivity.
That's right.
And yes, we can. And get rid of the word try. Get rid of the word I can't. Get rid of the word I don't know. I will, I can, and I'm going to find out. We will fulfill our goals this year.
I love it.
You know I love you, and you keep on doing it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Wow. Phenomenal phone call. Thank you, Karen, for that. She knocked it out the park. And let me tell you, some of us have health goals, and part of saying no is actually changing our programming. I started the program with talking about intentional inputs, and you have to be very careful of the things that are floating into your mind from television, through commercials. Turn them off. DVR it. Fast forward. You know, if that's your favorite show and you know every time they're going to put on a big burger, you know, with, we were watching a comedian last night, my wife and I, she's from London, and she said, I see why Americans are overweight, because you guys have commercials with cheese and beef and chicken and cheese and beef and chicken and bacon and cheese and beef, and then it's on a sesame bun. Right? She's like, of course you're going to eat this stuff because you've been told to go eat it. She hit it on the head. You got to watch what you're taking in, because that's going to have a phenomenal, a significant impact on you and make it harder for you to say no. Robert, good morning. How are you?
Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm well. I'm well.
Okay. I wanted to say first off that you give a service to the community, you know, because quite honestly, like some of the big things politically or whatever that are in the news, if we had someone in office that could motivate people in a positive way, and it didn't come down to trying to take advantage of the people or this or that or the other, that's really something. You really ought to consider something like that. And I'm not saying, just to, the political side where, corruption and this, and I understand there's a lot of things involved in that.
Right.
But you really ought to consider that, because reaching the masses, and I don't want to say this in a negative way, you are bigger than the show that you are doing now, because you need to reach so many more people, because the message is so profound, and a lot of people can benefit from it. I listen to people like Jim Rohn and things like that. And
great inputs.
And it is important what you put in your mind. And sometimes, like, I'm a vegan, and I'm guilty of maybe eating, like, you stop at the McDonald's. The only thing at the McDonald's basically I can eat is the French fries.
Right. Which, if you do some research on the McDonald's French fries, just Google what's bad about McDonald's French fries, and I promise you won't eat them again.
Oh, wow.
Just Google it. I'm not going to talk about it right now. I don't have time. But just Google it. And Robert, you know what? I got to go. But thank you so much for the acknowledgement. And real quick, everything I do is purpose-based. I don't necessarily know what's next. It's got to align with my purpose. It's got to be a part of God's plan for my life. I appreciate the acknowledgement. And ultimately, I'm just walking according to my purpose. And if that leads me into one of these paths, then, phenomenal. But wherever it leads me, that's where I'll go. That's how I will set my goals. Let me leave you all with this. You know you're making progress when you hit a pothole. You know you're making progress when you run into a wall. You know you're making progress when you fall down. You cannot fall now unless you're moving forward. So, by all means, take that to heart. Continue to make progress. Stay motivated. Stay inspired. And keep listening. Love you guys. This is Linal Harris signing off from Inspirational Perspective here on WVON 1690 AM, the Talk of Chicago. Have a phenomenal Sunday and an even better week. Control your mind, control your world. Hey everybody, if you love what you just saw, please be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you can get more inspirational content just like this right here on YouTube.